Ladies and gentlemen, another week. Birds of a feather. We are coming at you live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Twitch, the whole nine, all over social media. It's myself, Chucks, with Mr. Subscribe to A2D Radio, Pete Evans, down below, right? I can't, this way. There you go. And then the return of the prodigal son,
Yes.
Mr. Kevin Godwin. He's back. Wow, it's been like a few weeks. Didn't know you were going to go into hiding after the Jared Stidham shows. What's up, man?
Was glad to be back. Wasn't a hiding. It was more of a hoping that you guys would come to your senses
Sure, yeah.
for a bit in my
Our
absence.
sponsors are Doc Paul Vidal of Specialized Physical Therapy LLC. Find them in Burlington, Cherry Hill, and Princeton, specializedphysicaltherapy.com. And M Buck Services Gutter Cleaning for rotted board replacement, deck installation and restoration, tree trimming, and other gutter-related services. Call 856-879-5530 or visit them at ambuckservices.com and mention A2D to get 20% off. Chrome is not here. He is not feeling well. He was a game time decision, but at the last moment, he couldn't make it on. But you've got us three, and you've got Ralphie producing on the ones and twos. You may not hear his voice popping in and out, depending on the conversation, but you know how it goes. But it's good to have everyone here again for another week. Today, our poll question: Patrick Mahomes is the NFL's best player, age 25 and under. We are continuing our 25 and under talk that we had from last week. Last week we did Eagles. We did all the Eagles players 25 and under, and now we are expanding to the whole league. So who are the best players to build around, the best young players that we've got in the whole league? Then we will also be talking more about the Vinny Curry re-signing with the Eagles. He is back for another year. What do we think of that? Was it a good deal, the right move whatsoever? We're also talking about player opt-outs. The finalized player opt-out list was out as of Thursday last week. That was the deadline. So we'll talk about all those, the ramifications of the players who are opting out. I know Kevin will have a lot to say because his team's got like 8 players out. So he's going to have a lot to say, including Mr. Vitale. So definitely want to hear from Kevin on that. And then to end the show, we will talk about Derrius Guice and his arrest and release from the Washington football team. But guys, to lead off, first topic, Patrick Mahomes. I think since we all did rankings, let's just keep the answer to the poll question really quick so that we can get into rankings, and we'll touch more upon it when we get to him, because he's got to be ranked somewhere on your list. He has to. If he's not, then just I'm kicking you out. I'm kicking you out. So, Patrick Mahomes, is he the number one player in the league, 25 and under? Let's go with the prodigal son who makes his return, Kevin Godwin. What say you, Mr. Patrick Mahomes is only a running quarterback? Is he the top player in the league at 25 and under?
I do. I think he might be. If you're going 1 year right now, winning a championship this upcoming year, I think he's the best player in the league to do it around. I think he's the most complete player as far as what he brings to the table. I think it's close though, and I'll go into that more in my rankings. But I agree to the poll. I have him as the number one under 25.
All right, Pete, what you got?
I agree. I mean, it's just, if you have anything different, we need to have a talk. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that.
It is really as simple as that. Yeah. All right. So, guys, I think you pretty much will assume that I agree to the poll. He is the best player in the league. He's the new face of the league. Sorry, it's not Tom Brady anymore, Kevin. As much as you want to deny it, He is the face of the league, the new face of the league, and he's a great ambassador. So he's the top player. Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Top players rankings. So we decided last week. We're gonna split up the offense and defense. That way it'd be kind of like clear cut instead of just trying to mesh them together. So offense and defense, we said at least go 5. Now you know me. I went a little further than 5. That's just how I once I get rolling on these rankings, I don't stop. But let's start back at Kevin again. How many do you have, Kevin, on your rankings?
I've got 10 deep each side.
Each side. Okay, good. Pete,
Yeah.
how many you got?
I have 5 that I'm really confident in. 6 on the offensive side, and probably 7 or 8 on the defensive side.
Okay, all right. So let's do this then. So we'll do it the way we did, like the what was it, the top players since 2000. Well, how we did our top 5, we went one at a time. Let's keep our top 5 for later. Let's go with it. So Kevin, you did 10. I'll do outside my 10. And then Pete, the 1 or 2 names that you have outside your top 5, name them. So Kevin, start with your 6 to 10 or however much you have on the offensive side of the ball, and then I'll go, and then Pete.
Yep. So offensive side of the ball, my 10 was Dalvin Cook. I think that he's up there as far as running backs go within the league overall, let alone under 25. The only concern is the health issues that he's had, already. But with that being said, I think that he's bounced back well so far. Number 9, I have Josh Allen, strongest arm in the league. Needs to work on his accuracy a little bit, and pocket awareness of knowing when to use his legs, not necessarily just thinking and going. Number 8, I have Nick Chubb, and then 7, I have Zeke, which those 2 were the hardest for me on this list to decide. That kind of flip-flopped them back and forth. My issue with Chubb is you haven't really seen a whole season. He's always had a complimentary piece. Whether he needed it or not, we don't know because we haven't seen it without it. I think he could be a number 1 back, but when you've got a guy like Kareem Hunt in the league, you're not going to deny him the ball. And same thing with Zeke on the other side. When you have such a high-powered offense, how much can you really lean on him if need be? And 6, I had Deshawn Watson. For me, I think he's really good at everything. He's not great at one thing yet, like the quarterbacks I have ahead of him on the list. Really good at moving the pocket with his legs and running. Really nice arm, but I don't think it's there yet to be top tier, which I consider my top 5 to be.
Okay. The only one that I will disagree with there is Josh Allen. I mean, everyone else I can see in that range, but Josh Allen, he's gonna have to prove he can throw an accurate ball before I even include him in anywhere near top 10. I'm looking at my list, and there are just way too many other names that I would definitely rank over Josh Allen. We have this debate all the time, repeatedly. I don't see what everyone's appeal is of Josh Allen at this moment, other than he's a good fantasy quarterback because he runs. Even Lamar Jackson, even though he's known for his runner, to me he's already shown to be a much better passer than Josh Allen because Lamar Jackson, even though he has his flaws still, has a lot to work on, he still can throw accurate balls down the seam. He can make better reads than Josh Allen. And yeah, Josh Allen has a strong arm, maybe one of, if not the strongest arm in the league. But to me, it's all about accurate. It's more about accuracy in this league. Throwing deep doesn't matter if it's not an accurate ball. So I don't get the hype over Josh Allen, and I still don't. His tape is really, 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 really bad. So
I mean, I agree to a point as far as you could throw the ball a mile long, and you be that Matt Stafford-esque guy, but you have to have somebody there to catch it. to make it count for anything. And that's my biggest thing is who has he really had that, has the speed to actually go get the ball to make the plays? How
John
much of it, how much of it has been,
John Brown's been one of the better deep threats in the league for years since his rookie year.
I mean, if you only have one weapon that only runs one route, then I'm not going to take that much away from a quarterback to say he should be out of consideration because of accuracy problems. I mean, you got to lean on, it's got to be twofold. You have to have receivers that can go up and make plays and get the ball, but then you have to have a quarterback that can put it there too.
Not with Josh Allen, when he's throwing balls. I mean, I get what you're saying, but when you watch his film, it's not about the receiver. It's about him throwing completely behind and throwing a non-catchable ball. If you're throwing a non-catchable ball, you can't blame it on the receiver for not catching it if it's not catchable. Like it's clear as day. Like I know the difference between it's on the receiver too because he's got to catch it or get separation and whatnot. But you can't. When I watch Josh Allen, you can't tell me that a lot of these throws aren't on him. They are a lot. Majority of these throws are on him and his lack of accuracy.
I agree.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all right. I guess no rebuttal from you, Kev. So,
I mean, my biggest thing is you can play devil's advocate both ways, and then I know that we all have here. I mean, the same thing has been said by most of I know you, Chucks, Pete, at times. The same thing can be said the exact opposite way. And when you have a guy like Drew Brees led the league in accuracy and completions within a certain range. But then the argument is, okay, your guys are only running 10-yard in routes and short slants and easy routes that these receivers are supposed to make day in, day out, and it's an easy play to make. We're also judging now accuracy and catchability at distance when we're talking about Josh Allen. To me, his short game is there. I mean, it's again good, not great. It's not something that I'm going to say he's the best in the league at 35 and under, but when you talk about 35 and over, those deeper passes, it's a different ball game to me. It's not something, to me, it's not something that you've seen in a long time that somebody has had down pat outside of an Aaron Rodgers-esque player.
I don't know. It's not just 35 and over. I'd say it's like 5 and over. Passes 5 yards down the field and greater. He's not really that accurate. And yeah, you mentioned our issue with, like, me and Pete have been notorious when it comes to Brees and knocking him. But that's our point. Like, yeah, he has the accuracy, but he's got also a great team and coach and system around him to make things easier, and he doesn't have the arm strength, so then we do knock him. So it doesn't really help your argument. It just goes to show more of ours that, like, if you want to be mentioned in the top 2 tiers in the league, you got to be able to do it all. And do it on your own sometimes. And I don't see look at the playoff game that Josh Allen had. How many? It's not even just about accuracy. It's about decision making. How many bad decisions and horrible decisions did he make? Ton. He made a ton. It's really, really bad. When it comes to his processing and decision making too. It's not just accuracy. It's a lot. The only thing he has going for him that you can hang his hat on is running and his arm strength. That's it. I don't have anything else that I'm confident in when it comes to Josh Allen. None. Like, he doesn't even sniff. If I were to ranking top quarterbacks and all the quarterbacks in the league, I don't even think Josh Allen sniffs my top 15. I'm going to be straight honest with you. He doesn't even come close. With confidence, he's not making my top 15.
I disagree.
All right. Watch more film.
Obviously.
So, Tier 2, this is what I'm going to do. So I have my tiers, and I originally did not rank the players in each tier, but for my top tier, I'll go ahead and rank them because we're going to go one by one. So I'll try to rank them, but for my second tier, they're all just jumbled up. I didn't rank any of them, and there's a bunch of them, and I couldn't narrow it down. So I'm just going to read off who I have. And again, these are not in ranking order. They're just all guys in the same tier, in the same group. I put on the same level. So for my second tier on offense of players 25 and under, for quarterbacks I got Watson and Lamar. For running backs I got Chubb, Cook, and Zeke. Oh, and Joe Mixon. And then for wide receivers I got Chris Godwin and Cortland Sutton. And then for tight ends I've got Mark Andrews, and I think I didn't look up Darren Waller's age. Does anyone know how old Darren Waller is? He wouldn't be. So it's Mark Andrews, and I'm pretty sure Mark Andrews is under 25. He's 23. So
Yeah,
He's 23.
Year for me is Mark Andrews. That's all the guys. To me, like I was really trying to look for young linemen, and there really are none that I can say is like worth like tier 1, tier 2 grades for me. Young linemen 25 and under, I couldn't find any except for there's one person, and I think Pete will know who it is, but we'll get into that when we get into the but that's it. Like in young, I don't know if it's a thing where linemen just take longer, and it goes for both sides of the ball. I don't know if just linemen take longer to get really good. I don't know, but man, like it's there in terms of 25 and under, I didn't catch a lot. So those are my guys in my tier 2. All right, Pete, what you got?
All right, so I kind of ranked them just now. So at 11, I have Alvin Kamara. 10, I have Zeke. 9, I have Dalvin. 8, I have Nick Chubb. I'm sorry, I'm one number off. So this had subtract a number. So 7. So I said Kamara's 10, Zeke is 9, Cook is 8, 7 is Nick Chubb, 6 for me is Chris Godwin. He's number 6 for me. And then I get into my top 5.
Okay. I don't read them off one more time. I know Godwin's at 6.
Sorry. Godwin is at 7. 6
okay.
6 is Christian McCaffrey.
6 is Christian McCaffrey. Okay. And then who are your 7 to 10?
So 7 to 10. I'll actually make it 11. So Kamara,
okay.
Zeke, Cook, Chubb.
25?
Huh? Zeke is
he's
25. He's 25 right now.
Kamara's
25 too.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I feel like he's older. I probably would have put him in tier 2 also. I'm not gonna lie. So I'll have to add up to tier 2. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Kamara, Zeke, Cook, Chubb, Godwin, Christian McCaffrey.
Okay. I don't really disagree with any. That sounds reasonable. All right. So
let's do defense next.
Let's do defense. Same thing. Pete, we'll start with you. Go, or do you need time? Do you need time to?
No, I only have 9 for defense. I couldn't.
Okay, so go 6 to 9 on defensive side.
All right. So 9 is Kenny Clark. 8 is Minka. 7 is Darius Leonard. 6 is Darwin James.
Okay.
It's close.
Okay.
So
I don't think I disagree with any of that. I'm trying to think because Derwin. Okay. All right, Kev, go.
So for my defense, I've got 10 Kenny Clark, 9 Marlon Humphrey, 8 Darius Leonard, 7 Derwin James, and 6 Joey Bosa.
Joey Bosa. Okay. I can't disagree with any of that either, actually. All right, so this is pretty. I mean, we're pretty. All of our same guys are. I think we're all in the same range. For my tier 2 for defense, I've got. I'm going just down the line. I've got interior defensive line Kenny Clark, edge defenders T.J. Watt, linebackers Darius Leonard and Fred Warner, corners Marshawn Lattimore, Jair Alexander, and Marlon Humphrey, and then safety Jamal Adams. So that's my tier 2 of guys.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't. Go ahead.
This is going way too smoothly to be a
Going
bird's
way.
question.
I'm waiting for something. The only disagreement we've had is Josh Allen. So like,
Well,
Right.
I have a disagreement. I just haven't brought it up because I know it's coming. So
God. Okay. All right. So if it's coming, it'll be here. So offense. So top 5 in offense. Again, I do not have 5. I have 4 in my top tier. 4 guys in my top
Okay.
tier. So just skip me. Read your 5. So Kevin, go with who you've got at number 5 on the offensive side of the ball.
okay, just my 5. My
Yeah,
5
just
slot.
number 5. Yeah,
Okay,
just
so at 5 I have Chris Godwin,
Okay.
I don't I can't disagree with
and
that.
Pete had him at 6, I believe.
I had him
Yeah,
7.
it's like 7.
7.
I think
7.
it's the fair range. Yeah. Pete, you got 5.
At 5, I have probably, outside of quarterback, probably the most clear-cut top of his elite position group, and that's Quentin Nelson. He's a fucking baller. Like, I can't.
He's so good.
He's I mean, if he can, he may be the first $100 million lineman that we ever seen.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and to come in as a rookie and beat a man from the jump, it's just, dude, it's just ridiculous.
He was, oh man, like he's like, when you look up guard, like the prototype of like what a guard should look like, I think it's Quentin Nelson. Like, you look at him and he's got like a square face and like with no neck, and then like
No neck.
he's his body is a square, and then his head is a square on top of that square, and he's what you look for in a guard. I remember that draft. I made an argument. I was arguing for the Giants. They need to draft Quentin Nelson because that position is more valuable than a running back. And I had, like, in terms of grade wise, I had the same type of grade on Quentin Nelson as did Saquon. To me, they're both like even, like in terms of like talent at their respective positions. And Quentin Nelson hasn't disappointed. I think that Colts line is incredible, but getting him was like the essential piece, because once you put him in there, everyone else starts to play a little bit better. And so that line, man, is one of the best. It's like, to me, it's the second best O-line in the league, and it's led by Quentin. I don't disagree. So now we're getting to number 4. So Pete, who you got at 4?
At 4, I have Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
At 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead. Did
Go
you
ahead,
wait
Kev.
for something?
I heard Kev, so I wanted to be quiet for the prodigal son.
No, so I have a correction here. I actually forgot about Quentin Nelson on my list here, and he's not even on it.
God.
So he would go right in.
Shuffle some shit around.
No. So he would slide in about that 5 slot and make Chris Godwin slide down and make Cook fall to 11. But yeah, he would go right about the same spot though.
Okay. Where did you say you'd have him?
Right at 5.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. Okay. How do you forget about the only lineman that's like y'all 25 minutes as a stud? We just ignore offensive line altogether.
I
Jeez.
probably didn't.
Oh my God! Get some respect for the offensive line. All right, so at 4, I guess I would. Again, I didn't rank them going in, but off the top of my head, if I'm going to rank it, then at 4, and this is tier 1 again, obviously, but I'd probably put CMC at 4.
Okay.
He'd be my number 4. And it's really close. Again, like this, there's only one guy at number 1 that's really above everyone else. But 2 to 4, to me, it's really close. Kevin, who got 4?
I have Saquon at 4.
Okay.
As well.
You got Saquon at 4 as well, right, Pete?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So I mean, I don't have a problem with that. 3. So I'll start it with 3. And my number 3, it's tough because I literally just said I have them graded equally, but I guess gun to my head, I'll say 3 is Quentin Nelson. And
Okay.
you guys know how I feel about him, but it's there. If I could, I'd put 2A, 2B. But since I have to name someone as 3, I'd say 3 is Quentin Nelson.
Okay.
Kevin, 3.
3, I have Lamar.
You have
Oh.
me that high. Okay. This is interesting that
It is for
the guy that
So-
calls him a running back has him as
yes.
the 3rd best young talent in the whole league, 25 and under.
So
That's
to
very
the
interesting.
to the fam out there, if this is your first time watching, make sure you subscribe and then turn your notifications on all streaming media platforms. But for those, let's give you a history lesson. Let's take a look back. Kevin, Mr. Godwin, Mr. Prodigal Son, has not been a Lamar Jackson fan, and it's been well documented. Hence, he may even call him a running back. Now, he may try to wiggle out of this and say he's 25 and under, so he's as a positionless list. That's what he may try to say. But I just want to get for us, for me and Chucks, and even Ralphie back there, to hear Kevin rank him at number 3 out of a list of 10. I'm very. I don't know if I should feel bad or feel happy.
Well, I'll explain myself.
Go ahead. Explain
I
yourself.
will go on record, and I have never said I was not a Lamar fan as a player. Okay,
True.
If I'm building a team, he is not the guy I want personally. I want, again, the reason why I have Josh Allen on here. I am a field general, pocket quarterback, old school, run and gun type guy, big arm. That's who I want. And for that reason is why I respect the progression of Lamar so much and have him as high as I do. To come in the league and be a quintessential running back and have teams at the combine ask him to try out as a running back and run the running back drills to grow into somebody that, in a very short period of time, who you now have to respect, at least a deep ball, very Michael Vick-esque, like, throw something deep as long as he does it, 2-3 times a game and at least takes the shot. You have to guard it, which opens so much up underneath. To me, he didn't do that early on, and that was proven when they went up to New England and were destroyed by that Patriots defense. Made them very, single lane type, running. You can't do anything in the air because no one's going to respect it. Now that teams have to respect it, and it's opened up his legs even more. You have to give respect to where it's due. I don't think he's as big of a talent or made as much progress as my top 2 guys, which warrants 3 for me. But I think he's in the top 5 players in the league for the next 10 years. You'll see come
On the offensive side. Okay.
Yeah.
We had I don't know if you guys saw, and I'll just bring it up now because we're talking about Lamar. Daniel Jeremiah put out his top 8 quarterbacks. I don't know if you guys saw the video.
Mm-hmm.
And Wentz was at 3. Lamar was, I think, at 5. I'm not 5 or 4. I could be wrong, but he did have Wentz ahead of him. And then I posted on the Facebook, and a bunch of my friends on Facebook got into like a long debate, and regarding it, and we got into a talk about Lamar. And I think I brought it up on the show, but for those who don't remember, who are on here, don't remember me bringing it up or may have not been on that show, it's an interesting conversation when you talk about that system, because a lot of people will say it's a gimmick, blah, blah, blah. But one, I don't think it's as big of a gimmick as people think. I think that the NFL is evolving constantly. And people might have thought that a 2 tight end system was a gimmick before when the Patriots implemented it. And now look, it's the people try to copy it, and the Eagles are trying to implement their own dominant 2 tight end system. And people would have thought that zone running scheme that the Niners ran, where they run the ball most of the time, is just a gimmick and all that. But the thing is, it's when you have the right players, the offensive system is what it is. There's no foolproof offensive system, but the right players will make the offensive system work.
Right.
You can't rely solely on it. So we saw in the playoffs, Lamar Jackson's going to have to eventually learn to throw and beat teams in the pocket when that system doesn't work. But it doesn't mean they can't rely on that system. Now, to add, it's a really, really, really interesting thought process to put when you think about what the Ravens' approach might be for
Right.
Lamar Jackson in the future, in the next coming years. Will he be able to stay durable for the next 10, 15 years the way he plays? Probably not. But if they're trying to win a Super Bowl only within this 5-year window that they have Lamar using this system, and they're able to win one, and then his career hypothetically is done after his 5th year, like he's too injury prone or whatnot, then was that worth it? And I think if you can say they won one Super Bowl in 5 years, you'd probably say it was worth it. And to maximize a player's talent within a short window, it's a high risk thing, but it's also a high reward if you know that the way you're using them is reaping these benefits. So it's an interesting conversation to have.
Furthermore, from that is, say that's the case, they don't have to pay him a second contract. So it's definitely worth it at that point.
Yeah.
If they win a Super Bowl on his first contract, on his rookie deal.
So here's my biggest thing when it comes to the Ravens and their offensive scheme and what they're trying to do with Lamar. And, for the people that say it's gimmicky and it's not going to work and your very mobile, high option, quarterbacks don't really work, and that needs to go out the window, right? In my opinion, because to me, a gimmick is something that a team tries and is not ever replicated, right? So your Wildcats, that was a gimmick. There's nobody in the league that really runs it like efficiently. It's a trick play. I believe it was the Dolphins that tried to make that their main play, format, and never worked. Chip Kelly's Eagles, that was a gimmick. The holding up caricatures and pictures and getting very college-esque, wasn't ever repeated anywhere else, never really worked. To me, this is something that they are now trying to change and put their twist and perfect, something that's been going on in the league for the past 10 years. You look at guys like Michael Vick, very similar play style. You look at early Russell Wilson, very similar. Pre-injury Russell Wilson ran a whole lot more than what he does now, and Lamar's going to learn that too. You look at RG3, his backup, who knows it by sitting on the bench behind him. What happens when you run too much and you don't know how to protect yourself the right way? It's been tried and been tested already for Lamar to learn from, and I think that's the biggest thing in watching the next 5 years is, can he progress and learn? Can you get people to respect your legs enough early on in your career, like say Cam, but then switch it like a Wilson and be able to throw the ball deep too. That way, you're not kept one way or the other. When that happens, then you get in trouble, right? If you have to run because people never respect the arm, like I was saying earlier, you get Michael Vick, you get your RG3s, you get the guys that go out and injure themselves over and over again because they have to force plays. Or the other side of things, when you get your Jameis Winston's, he can run. Why he chooses not to and throws 30 picks is because nobody trusts his legs. He's just going to run in circles like a dog with a limp or whatever you want to call him out there. But when you only have one side of the ball, that's where the issue comes. I don't think you'll see that in Lamar. I think that I can't say if he gets a ring in the next 5, only because of what he has to go through in the top side of the AFC. It's always been harder to get out of the AFC just because of the top tier. I think it is the weaker conference. I think there's more tough teams in the AFC or in the NFC, but I think the 3 studs that are in the AFC are studs. Like There's no ifs, ands, or
Right.
buts when you come around. So it's going to be interesting to see.
I mean, I don't think it's gimmicky. I mean, hell, look at what the Eagles did in the second round. They tried to get their version of Lamar because they want to have a second thrower on the field. It really made defensive honest and play instead of playing 11 on 10. The Lamar player like Lamar makes you play 11 on 11. It makes you have to account for something else that you can't that you can't really game plan for. But I mean, out of all the names that you said, Kevin, this is not to tear down your argument or poke holes in it. Wilson's been the only one that truly ever really been able to evolve. You know what I mean?
Right.
From what he did as a rookie to his play now. We can't even really say that about Cam. It hasn't been seen yet. RG3 hasn't been seen yet because really RG3 hasn't been given an opportunity because Lamar happened. So it's just what Vick, we kind of saw it in 2009, 2010. I wouldn't say, I don't think Chip's offense was a gimmick. You need top tier players in this league. If he had if Chip was the head coach of Kansas City, I think they'd be putting up a 60 some odd points. Like that offense with those players with Chip's offense, it'd just be, there's nothing you can do because it's speed all over the field, even at tight end. So, but it complements each other. And that kind of leads back to the point of if the Ravens offense is gimmicky. It's not. I mean, you have Greg Roman there. We saw what Greg Roman did in San Fran when Colin Kaepernick burst on the scene with Alex Smith. We saw what happened, and now he just has a better version of that. So people are they're looking for their next Lamar Jackson, and they really can't, like your prototypical quarterback, somewhat Josh Allen type, big arm, stay in the pocket. College, the feeder system, college football is not looking for that. They're looking for these dual threat quarterbacks. So the league has to accommodate that. These NFL offensive, hell, look what Carolina just did. They hired Joe Brady. Come on, I mean, like it's so many 6 degrees of separation that you can follow all the lines back to say why the Ravens were ahead of the curve to get Lamar and find a way to make it work at the expense of the Eagles' 30th pick, the last pick in the first round of 2018. So, I mean, I really I think the Eagles probably wish they still had that pick and made that choice instead of taking Jalen Hurts at 53 overall.
I think with the Ravens, it's a good point, but I think the Ravens, what happened there in 2018, I think they saw an opportunity and took it because they're one of the better teams at drafting.
Yep.
And I think they saw a potential great talented quarterback with a certain skill set fall to within striking range. And They said, hey, let's do it. Let's get it and get him and try to make it and figure it out after. And that's a sign of a great of an organization that drafts really, really well. And they have been. So I think what they did there was awesome. I think that's one of those trades that it really just both teams won that trade.
Yeah.
Both teams made out with
who did we take with that pick? Was it Goddard?
I think Goddard, and then the other pick ended up being Miles Sanders. I'm not 100% correct, but I think that's part of the trade. So I mean, like, it's hard to really say, oh, like the Ravens went out. Like, we made some good picks with that trade too. So one of those scenarios where both teams made out. But
they just got better. Like, their draft this year was freaking ridiculous.
It was ridiculous. I mean, like, there's no way to know for sure, like, how a draft plays out or how really good it was until years after. I'd say, like, 3-4 years after.
3-4, yeah.
But in terms of, like, the process they went through drafting,
and
you can always
fit
the process and the fits and just drafting, like, based on, like, consensus boards and what they're looking for. It's hard to find a pick that I didn't like. They knocked it out of the park. So
it sucks because there's rookies now with this shortened whatever preseason, if ever gets started. Like, you wonder what kind of impact Patrick Queen is going to have. You wonder what type of input Jake. For a running back, not so much. If the vision is there and hitting the lanes, but as far as athletic talent, I think a running back has less to adjust to than, say, more of a wide receiver, especially a defensive player than a linebacker, you know. So, but I don't know. So where we at? Number 3 on our list?
3. You're 3, yeah.
All right. So my 3 is somebody who is not as elite as Lamar, hence why Lamar is higher on my list, but probably is a more polished quarterback. And that's right now as we talk about it. But is also another player that you don't know if he can last, and not so much because of him. It's just his damn coach is a fucking nut, and that's Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I can see it. I think I would have Deshaun Watson. Yeah, I would rank Deshaun Watson higher than Lamar because I've seen Deshaun Watson beat you both ways. I think that a lot of his struggles have to do with the coach and the O-line. Now, that being said, some of his flaws still are on him. He turns the ball over way too much still. And that
Way
needs
too
to go
much.
down. Like, that's why I have him and Lamar in tier 2. I don't have him with this tier 1 crowd because I love the talent of Watson. I absolutely do. I just like those turnovers. They've got to go. They've got to come down. They've got to come down significantly because he fumbles. He gets careless interceptions. He's got to turn that down. But I love the talent in Watson, and I debated having him in tier 1, but I had to have him in tier 2. But I hear you. I don't have any problem with ranking him at 3. That's perfectly fine.
I mean, the biggest thing with Watson is that he just plays, home run ball. Everything with him, with what he's been given, is either, a deep ball, looking for those big routes, those big breaking plays, and not being able to play small ball and have those 12, 13, 14 play drives. I think is what kills him. That causes those costly turnovers. If he can get that down and get back to basics and just be okay with being out there, with the team a little bit longer, and let that defense rest and not be out there all the time with a 5-time broken back JJ Watt, then I think that team turns around both sides because of it. But only time will tell with their new weapons.
Absolutely. All right, number 2. Let's go to Pete. Go
Did
back.
Did you give your number 3 yet?
Yeah, I give mine. I said Quentin Nelson. Kev gave his.
Yeah, my 3 was Lamar.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry.
All
right. So 2 is Lamar Jackson. Just elite. Like you can't. And I really made this. I put him here because of his ceiling. To really, if he couldn't answer all the questions that Kev had, if he can become that pocket, not so much a pocket passer, he'll never be that. But if he can become more aware and pick his spots, like a Russell Wilson, if he can evolve into a player like Russ with his gifted athletics, which are, maybe not so much the arm, but his speed, his elusiveness is more than Russ. If he can find that median and he wins a ring, dare I say he could give the consensus number 1 a run for his money on this list in 5 years, because it's just a weapon that you can't. How do you stop that? You know what I mean? So go ahead.
With Lamar, I really do see Michael Vick when it comes to Lamar. I really, really do. And you guys have heard me say it on here before. Michael, the best I've seen, the best quarterback play I've seen ever was probably the 2010 Michael Vick. I've never seen anyone that dominant at a quarterback position. Now, he didn't stay at that level the next year or years prior. That's why it's hard to, say that he was as great as you'd want him to be. But man, if Lamar can be like what you said, just capable, reliable as a passer, where if need be he can make throws, then that's so tough to defend. Like you said, now he's not there yet. He's improved. The improvements from 2018 to 19 were so good, such great improvements, and I'm hopeful that he does get better. But he does still have to work on his accuracy outside the numbers, work on anticipation, and reading defenses better. But man, like his ceiling is crazy high. And during that draft, when I was ranking, remember that there were like the 5 quarterbacks that were talked about for the first round. And
Right.
I think Lamar was my QB 3 or 4, but I had said he has by far the highest ceiling out of all those quarterbacks. And so it's absolutely nuts to think of what he can do if he puts it all together. But we'll have to wait and see if he actually does, and what his durability will look like.
Very well said.
I'll go 2. So my number 2, and I'm assuming we all have the same number 1. I'm assuming, but with Kevin can assume. But my number 2 is Saquon. So you guys already know how I feel about Saquon. I think he's a generational talent at running back, the most talented running back I've personally ever seen since Barry Sanders. Like in terms of just pure talent, he's just really got to put it together, and hopefully either the Giants trade him to a better team, or the Giants, do get better, which I don't want to see, but I do want. Like I can't hate Saquon. There's no way. Like I tried to tell myself when they drafted him, oh, I hate him now. No, there's no way I can hate Saquon. I can't do it. I love him as a player, and to me, like he's the most talented running back I've seen in the past 20 years. So I have him at number 2. I hope that he gets better with his decision making and vision, and doesn't try to rely. He's gotten better, but he still kind of bounces it to the outside a little bit too much. Stay a little bit more disciplined. So if he does that, man, I think he can end up being one of the top 3 to 5 running backs ever.
No, Kev, you're number 2. I don't know where you're going with this number 2. Yeah, you know I don't. Know we don't know where you're going. So this will make it our weekly argument right here.
Oh, it's gonna be.
Shit.
So, and I wish that Vacation Brodo was still here to see this after saying everything I say has been wrong, because I know he would personally agree with me. I just want to do a quick recap of where you guys had the absolute workhorse in Christian McCaffrey at.
I had him at 4.
Okay. And Pete had him low.
I said it's close. So
I had him at 6. I had Quentin Nelson ahead of him.
Okay. So to me, the outside of the Zeke Chubb debate, this was the second hardest pairing for me, was Mahomes and Christian McCaffrey.
Okay.
I do have Mahomes number 1, but my number 2 is Christian McCaffrey. I disagree wholeheartedly with putting Saquon over him because of the overall value that he brings to the team and offense, both having over 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards rushing, lining up as a tight end, outside, blocking, whole 9. He does it. But the thing that does it for me, I don't disagree that as a pure talent out of the box, Saquon's got it. God-gifted talent, he's got
Glad
it.
you said that.
But when you talk about somebody that came in the league, that he might have put on 100 pounds since he came in the league, a pure muscle. Like, and to me, that's what puts him above anyone else on the list. Is just that pure heart, that mentality, that winner's mentality. I'm not the best yet, but I guarantee I will be there just because I will outwork anybody. That's that Ray Lewis, the Marvin Harrison type of in the weight room every single day. Whatever I got to do to be better, I'm gonna do.
I'm gonna do it.
Right. Whatever the coach says, hey, you're gonna catch the ball today. Well, sorry, I'm a running back. I don't do that. There's been guys like that. That say, hey, I got my thing. I want to do it. Versus a Chris McCaffrey who's going to play any role that's given to him, and in the past 2 years has done every one of those roles extremely well. The reason I had him behind Mahomes is because of that God-gifted talent that Mahomes has, and the edge on the leadership side. I don't think that McCaffrey is there yet as far as being a leader of men versus Mahomes being just that natural leader soft-spoken, very, guys just listen. It's hard to kind of quantify that. That to me is what is, that to me is going to set anyone aside no matter what. If you can get guys to follow you and lead you, mistakes or not, interception here or there, fumble here or there, lose a game here or there, but if you can get a team to follow you down a hole and fight with you, that's going to be the separator there. I think McCaffrey can do it. It's just a little bit harder not being the quarterback in this league and doing it. I had him as the MVP last year, personally.
Okay.
But it is a quarterback's league, so
that was a vote of one.
Hey,
he did it. I mean,
no, I think based on the, I hear, Kevin, you're going to be disappointed because I don't really, I'm not going to argue against anything you said.
Yeah.
For one, I think he's talking about MVP for last year when it comes to just that season, not overall. And
within the season.
Within a season, and I think it's a valid point, and I've said it that I probably would have voted for CMC as MVP, but the thing is, it is a quarterback's league. It's a quarterback's award now. No running back or wide receiver is ever going to win it from here on out. So, unfortunately, that's how it is. But I hear your points, and I just want to reiterate, I had him at 4, but it's 2 to 4 are so damn close. And
it's like splitting hairs.
Yeah, it's splitting hairs. And when it comes to Saquon and CMC, I don't really argue against anyone that wants to put CMC ahead of Saquon because I agree with the points and the arguments for CMC. I really it. It's when it comes to splitting hairs, it's because I think that Saquon, just physically talented, is on par with a guy like Barry Sanders, and that's absolutely rare. But the thing is with CMC, I love his versatility and his can-do-all attitude and what you said, Kev. He added the weight because he wanted to prove that he could be a featured back in this league, and I respect that wholeheartedly, and I love that about him. And I don't argue against it. I love it, and you guys know how I value versatility in a running back and their receiving skills probably more than most people do. So I have CMC that high. The only thing is I would argue that Saquon has the same type of ability as a receiver. The Giants are just too stupid and too dumb enough not to use him the way that Carolina uses CMC. So I don't see that as a detriment to Saquon. I've seen Saquon run routes. I've seen Saquon be like a wide receiver and be able to have that dual role. They just don't use him. And with pass blocking, I think Saquon he's not elite yet at pass blocking, but he's that tier under. So everything, it's so close between the two. So I don't argue with you with having CMC at 2. I think it's completely fair, and maybe this time next year I have CMC at 2, and then the other 2 at 3. Quinton and Saquon at 3 and 4. Maybe it's that close. But I mean, I love CMC.
Put it this way: if he breaks out another year, say 1,200 and 1,000, 1,200 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving. I mean, I don't know how you don't have him up there, outside of the quarterbacks. Like we said, it's a quarterbacks league. It's really hard to compare somebody that's leading a team, for the length of a game, holds the ball every touch of the game, outside of that, best player in the game, personally, if he does that again. Now, I think he's close there already, but it's not done too often, and to do it back-to-back years is saying something.
I just want to see it. It's hard for me because the only argument I would have had, you kind of took it because you said if it was this God-given talent, you would have Saquon higher.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want to make sure when we talk about CMC, and I'm not taking anything away from the kid at all. It's just what else does his team have besides him and DJ Moore? You know what I mean? And I think that's a fair assumption. So when you're in, especially and also in that division, they're not going to be. I can't see them first-year head coach Teddy Bridgewater, Mr. Check Down as it is. I think I would be hard pressed to have him not get 1,000 and 1,000. I mean, I would be disappointed if he didn't get 1,000 and 1,000 at least, because I know how much he means to that team as far as the offense. You know what I mean? So he's going to be a volume guy. And the biggest thing I'm impressed with is just his durability so far to this point. I mean, being how durable he has been. And I hope that continues, because I think this really may be the next golden era, if it isn't already, of running backs. You think about in this league, you got Chubb, you got Barkley, you got Dalvin Cook, you got Joe Mixon, you got Kamara, you got CMC. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I can't think of the last time where we had this many running backs that are just feature backs that are under the age of 25.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Miles Sanders, hopefully after this season, will join that list.
Yeah. Josh
Hey,
Jacobs.
well,
Yeah. I agree. It's
I mean,
I real quick, Kevin, before you go.
go ahead.
I really hope you're right in terms of, you know, you want CMC to get recognition as like one of the best players in the league, if not the best player in the league outside of a quarterback position. What frustrates me so much is the whole notion of, you know, out there that the running back position really doesn't matter. They're a dime in a dozen. And it really bothers me, because if you want to say that about like good talent and lower, like above average talent, yeah, there are a bunch of guys that, you know, you could get by with that are good talents at running back. But when you have these elite talents at running back, and there are, like you said, Pete, there are several now. Like I don't remember there being this many in the past like 10, 15 years. Like it you almost underappreciate what CMC and what Saquon and what Zeke, what they bring to the game, and that's not fair to them. They are so good. They are so good. I don't care what position you put them in, their talent deserves respect. And I think that just bothers me, because I see on social media and in the media in general, just people just they say, oh, running backs don't matter. And analytics guys, the diehards, they hate running backs. They really do. They don't think that CMC should have gotten paid, and it bothers me. It really does bother me. Like I see where everyone's talking about where you can get a good talent late in the draft. Therefore, you know, don't give good running backs big contracts. Don't like give a Raheem Mostert a 5-year contract. Like, and I agree, Raheem Mostert is not a special talent, but when you talk about the special talents in the league, to me, they're worth money. They add a lot. They add so much to your offense when they're versatile and they're two-dimensional. They can be a threat on the running game and in the receiving game. And it's not fair to them. I just don't think it's fair to them. And so I hope this league does get cyclical in the sense that the respect for the running back will start to grow within the next few years.
See, for me, the biggest thing is just the evolution of the game, right? Like, let's just call it the last 10 years, even more so the last 20 years, if you want to start to see the trend that far back. But the issue goes, as far as all of the hits go, right? You can't really have it opens it up more for a quarterback to throw a deep ball to a wide receiver, because you can't hit him. You can't go down, and you can't hand fight for the ball much more. So, that's where you start to see the error of your TOs, your Randy Mosses, your Calvin Johnsons, your Megatrons, all those guys, because no one can hit the quarterback and nobody can hit the receiver. So you make giant throws down the field, and you eliminate the running game almost, and you end up with a lot of guys under 1,000 yards, rushing. But now you're starting to see a trend back the other way to where, okay, how do we play with the new rule sets that we have in place? Well, we make a specialty type back, like a CMC, like a Saquon can be, like a Chubb and Mixon have been, to where you start to catch the ball out of the backfield. Now I have to cover you. I can't just know you're going to be blocking, because you might chip and go out and catch the ball out of the backfield. You might actually line up as a receiver and go out and catch the ball. But I still have to respect the talent that you were brought in and drafted for, which was your legs and your running ability.
Right.
And I think that actually equates to longevity. Because if you think about it, what's the biggest injury to running backs? It's knees and hamstrings. You know, if you're looking at your power backs, your Frank Gore-esque players, it's knees. It's your, it's your hamstrings. It's you're running full speed and getting tackled, or you're pulling something and not stretching. You don't have those guys anymore. You're letting plays develop a little bit more, and it's not as often. Your guys like Saquon and McCaffrey, yes, they can be hard-nosed backs and run up the middle, but they're not doing it as often as a typical hard-nosed back would. Same thing with when you get the pass play and those types of running backs, their knees go out, their Achilles go out, that quick 1-2 cut, your Adrian Petersons of the world. Well, you're not asking that guy to do that every play anymore, because he's also running up the gut. He's also catching out of the backfield. So by mixing it in all over, I think you actually save your running back a whole lot more and get the those $500 million contracts or whatever it might have been. And I think more of them are to come.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So it's good conversation to have. So I'm assuming we all have Patrick Mahomes at 1. Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. At the age of 24 years old.
Yep, at 24. Yeah. All right, so good. So we surprisingly we've already hit an hour. So let's go to the defensive side of the ball, and let's run through these rather quick. So, Kevin, do 5 to 2.
Okay.
5 to 2, and then Pete, do your 5 to 2, and then I'll do the same. I'll do 5 to 2.
Yep. So at number 5, I have Minka. 4, I have Lattimore. 3, I have the younger Bosa, Nick. 2, I have Jamal Adams.
Okay.
Okay. So at 5, I have Jamal Adams. 4, I have Jalen Ramsey, because he's 25 now. 3, I have Joey Bosa. 2, I have Nick Bosa.
Okay. So yeah, the Bosa's pretty high. Good.
Yes.
All right. So I have a lot of people in my top tier. Like I told you, that's how I did it. So I'm going to say who my number 1 is. And,
Wow.
No. Sorry. I said it backwards. Sorry. I will not say who my number 1 is. I will just say everyone else, but it's really tough, but I'll try to keep it that way.
Okay.
All right. So edge defenders, I've got the Bosa brothers, and I've got Myles Garrett. I've got Jalen Ramsey and Tre'Davious White, corners. And then I've got Minka, safety. Now it's the Bosa brothers, like Nick. That was close. I want to put him at 1. Okay, just keep in mind that like I really could go back and put him at 1. So even though he's 2, he's essentially a tie for me at 1, especially after this past season. So it's really tough. But if I had to pick one guy just to leave out for my number 1 spot, it would be the guy I'll mention in a bit. So those are my guys I have in the top tier. Bosa brothers, with Nick barely not making number 1, Myles Garrett, Jalen Ramsey, Tre'Davious White, Minka Fitzpatrick. So now my number 1, I'll lead off with my number 1, and then Pete, you can go, then Kevin. My number 1 is Darwin James. I know he didn't play last year, but man, like this is a generational talent at safety who can do everything. That's why I put him at 1. You talk about playing the role like Jamal Adams does, like he's a strong safety, but Derwin does it all. He plays deep also, and he's damn good at it. And I think Derwin does the strong safety role a little tiny bit better than than Jamal Adams even. So I personally would rather have Derwin James. But again, it's close. I could have put Derwin at 2 just because he didn't play at last season. I could have put him at 2 and then also 1. But gun in my head, if they're both healthy, I'm going with Derwin. I love Derwin James.
Okay.
Pete.
Kev looks like he's ready though, so I'm gonna let Kev go.
Kevin.
So at number 1, minus the helmet, but extra stash, is Myles Garrett.
Listen, Kev brought his game tonight. I'm so proud.
Good stuff.
I don't know where Kev is. It was like Kev was. This is his Howie Roseman Act 2. Like he went somewhere. We put him in the equipment closet with the towels and the sanitizer. He learned about himself. He came back, and now we have a whole new Kevin. So he's hitting on every note tonight.
That's crazy. I like your selection though. I like it. I love Myles Garrett. So go ahead. Explain.
I mean, my thing is, like, if I look at, and I put the Bosas, the Watts, Garrett, all in kind of the same type of class to where they can move around a little bit. But Myles Garrett is just a monster. He's bigger than everybody else. He's meaner than everybody else. He's coming at you full force every single play, and does it with a smile on his face. Well, whether he takes his helmet off or not, he's a type of guy to where very Ray Lewis-esque, to where he can lead and talk up a team, and get you game ready, but not do it, outside of the helmet, again, not do it disrespectfully, not do it to where you're looking at like you're incognitos, because when you talk about playing defense, you got to be mean. I mean, I need a guy that's going to go out there and want to kill you pretty much. If I'm coming downfield full speed, I need that type of guy, and there's no play where Myles doesn't bring that. Inside, outside, he's faster than everybody. He's bigger than everybody. I mean, you just can't ignore him. You literally cannot go that way, that side of the field with him. You can't game plan for it. At least when you have the Bosas, you can beat him with speed one way or the other. Either release the ball a little bit faster, which was, if you could go back and watch 2 years ago, the film of Brady talking to him, saying, why are you getting rid of the ball so fast? He says, stop coming, into my backfield so fast. I mean, there's ways to beat those guys a little bit. You can't do that with Myles. So,
yeah.
I love it. I love Myles Garrett. It's good stuff.
I never thought this would be a day where me and Kevin agree on the number 1 pick. I mean, the dude, we can go to a jazz spot, listen to some Curtis Mayfield, listen to some BB King, and just be eclectic and just vibe out, and then get on a football field and I'm like ready to hit a guy in the head with a helmet who's mad at me because I'm just doing my job, and I've been doing my job all night, and you just get mad, and you may or may not have said some shit. Maybe I heard you wrong, but guess what? Just because you thought about saying a word, I'm gonna take your helmet off. I'm gonna hit you with the son bitch. And then on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he just get paid?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
he got a contract extension, I think.
So like, what does that say about you? You feel what I'm saying? Like, I know we sat here as Eagles fans and kind of going back and forth to get trade for Jan, this, that, and the third. I'd have gave up my whole 7-8 picks, bitch, for Myles Garrett, hands down. He's just that much of a difference. And like you said, when I really start to look at him, like, I got Nick, who obviously is a beast, but I look at the other players on that line and that defense as a whole. Look at Joey.
That's
kind
fair.
of the same thing. Melvin Ingram, just that defense as a whole. I mean, don't get me wrong, Cleveland, they don't have any slouches on defense as far as a unit, but when you talk about that defensive line, I mean, he's it. I mean, I think they got like Emmanuel Ogbah on the other side, the other defensive end, if I'm not mistaken. But then it's also they traded the guy from the Giants. They got in the Jabril Peppers trade. Olivier Vernier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but Miles, man, it's just headed like I really believe. I mean, it's not as clear cut as on the offensive side, but it's very hard to put an argument against Myles Garrett for me for number one. Now, there's some players, especially on the offensive side. I completely forgot about Marshawn Lattimore, so I'm sorry there. But I don't think his last year, I don't
Yeah.
think he's been as good as his rookie year.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And I think his rookie year, he came in. I think he may have put on a little bit of weight, so he's not as fast. Doesn't get as physical. So that's why his play just didn't recollect with me. But I'm shocked to see, not so much shocked, but to hear your guys' thoughts. Our offensives, we had pretty much had 11 guys. No Kyler, no Baker on that list. What do those two guys have to do to potentially we do this list next year to get on that list? Because they're both under the age of 25.
Kyler just has to progress as a quarterback overall. I think it's tough. It's tough to judge him. I think he did a great job considering circumstances for Kyler.
Mhm.
That O line was bad, but he had a good system. He had decent weapons. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of what they had last year, but with them adding DeAndre Hopkins, that all of a sudden elevates everyone else. So I think Kyler just has to continue that process. I didn't see a glaring weakness in his game where I'm like, oh, you have to work on that. That's really bad right now. He made typical rookie mistakes, but it's not the same like it's been Josh Allen. On Josh Allen, you can name off a list of things he has to work on, but with Kyler Murray, just his overall game has to take that next step. I do really like him though. I think with Baker, he has to just be better at staying disciplined with reads, and his pocket presence was atrocious last year. I know that O line was bad. All right, I know that O line was bad, but even if you have a bad O line, you can't just make something where you can't step outside the pocket prematurely so that there's a pass rush out of nowhere when there really wasn't one. You know what I
Seeing
mean?
ghosts. Yeah.
Yeah, you're seeing ghosts, or you refuse to step up in the pocket, or you're scrambling out, on a bootleg or whatnot when you don't need to. Stuff like that, and the decision making that Baker had last season, which is overall was bad.
I mean, for me, the biggest thing is
You guys
you
hear me?
had. Yeah, so the biggest thing for me is they kind of played opposites between the two. I feel as if Kyler played scared. I think that he didn't trust either one of his weapons, in his arm and getting the ball downfield to the probably, if not the most sure-handed receiver in the league, the second most behind his new weapon in Hopkins is Larry Fitz. So to not get the ball out to him and let him go work or trust your legs, which got you there in the first place, and got you into the position that you're in to lead a team as a starter. I just think he didn't trust himself enough. I don't think the confidence there was there to just go and do something versus in a Baker Mayfield, way too much confidence. You come in thinking that you're going to be the next thing since sliced bread. I think it's something like 25, 30 quarterbacks in the past 10, 15 years that Cleveland's had. You think you're going to turn things around. You've got OBJ, who's a number one. You've got Jarvis Landry, who is a number one. You've got, great things out of the backfield. You got all these weapons around you, and you try to force things to happen, and you try to be the playmaker instead of just realizing, you're just one piece of the puzzle and let everything else work its way out. If you look at, the greats in the league, and obviously it's an easy one to pick up. I'm not saying he's the best to do it, but if you got a guy like Brady, right? No one has ever said that he's been the best quarterback in the league any year that they've ever won a Super Bowl. He's the best teammate. He's the best player. He's the best general, right? You lean on the other pieces on the field and you win games and rings as a team. I don't feel as if Baker was trying to do that. I think he's going to try to go out and force things and, learn that halfway through the season, 8 games too late to catch anybody, especially in a tough division. And the exact opposite on, Kyler's side. I think he's got to trust himself a little more.
Yeah. I agree. I think Baker has a lot of childish. I wouldn't be surprised if Kyler surpasses Baker.
Well, yeah.
It's not. It's a lot of different things. I just think Kyler he's wired differently with his head, but I also think Kyler is in a better position organizational wise. I think he has a better organization with more stable management around him. I mean, Cleveland has a lot to show. I mean, I'm a better believer in Arizona's head coach than Stefanski in Cleveland.
Yeah.
But just the infrastructure there. I mean, you have Odell, you have Jarvis. You're trying to make those guys happy. I mean, now they brought on Austin Hooper when they already had David and Njoku, who unfortunately can't stay healthy. I mean, they're Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb. We talked about the offensive line. Baker was kind of running scared. But how did Chubb make that offensive line look so good when he was running the ball? You know what I mean? So I understand run block and pass block is two different things. It's a lot of ish going on in Cleveland, and Baker has to do extra to rise above it mentally to really be worthy of that number 1 overall pick or be successful. Really, at this point, just to get a second contract in Cleveland. If you look at the 2015 2016 draft, 2013 draft. I'm sorry. The draft 14 draft where Mariota and Winston went up. At that time when they were drafted, who would have ever thought that neither one of them would have got a second contract from the team that drafted them?
Now,
you know what I mean?
Just because I don't remember off the top of my head, where was Murray taken?
Murray was taken number 1.
Number 1 overall.
Number 1 overall. So, I mean, it's just – go ahead, Chucks.
No. I was just answering his question. Murray was number 1, and so was Baker.
Yeah, I couldn't remember for some reason.
That was the big shocker because, remember, the Cardinals had traded not traded. They had drafted Josh Rosen the year before, and then, they just pretty much were like, oh, no, we're good.
Well, that's gotta play with you a little bit. Usually when you see rookies within the league, there's either one or two things that's going to happen. Either you're going to play out your rookie contract, or you're going to be out of the league. Usually, you don't end up getting traded, that early within the 3-4 years. I mean, it happens, but it's usually rare, right? Yeah. That teams are going to let you develop. I mean, more so a first-round talent. I mean, you're expected to put up numbers right out the gate. But when a team says after 1 year, hey, we don't really want you anymore. We're just going to go with this guy instead. Sorry. What's that to say that, and you look at, type of player wise, kind of similar to what they were looking, I think that Murray's better than Rosen, but I think, the, running, West Coast-esque type play is a little similar there. I could see why they would make the switch, but what's not to say that they won't do it again, What happens if they end up getting the first overall pick again, and Lawrence is there?
Man, if they keep getting the first overall pick again, then there's a bigger issue than who's your quarterback.
I mean, look at what happened in Cleveland. How many quarterbacks are we going to take, in the first round over there? And there's the same questions brought up. When are you going to move away and build up everything else around it? So it's not crazy to think that they wouldn't do it again. Going after it another time. So,
what?
All right. Well, good talk. Top 25 top players under 25. We were only supposed to go 5. We went 10 each. So good stuff, guys. Let's transition over to our next topic now. Let's touch on real quick the Vinny Curry signing with the Eagles. He's back on a 1-year deal. It was pretty delayed. I think there were a lot of talks for a few months, but what had happened, I don't know, Kevin, you're aware. I'm sure, Pete, you're aware. Vinny's brother had passed. Half-brother had passed away right around, I think it was a couple months ago, right around the time when he was supposed to decide who to sign with. So when that happened, he kind of put it off and, put it on the back burner. I think right now he was deciding between us and one other team. I don't remember what that other team was, but with him back, what does that mean for the rest of the, for the rest of the five groups, the defensive ends? Like, do you see it as a good move? Because like when you look at it, Curry really was starting to play really well toward the end of the year.
Yep.
And so getting him adds stability and reliability when, in an offseason where we don't have preseason games. So do you like the move, or would you have rather the Eagles, refrain from signing him and just go with the young talent we have?
What young talent? That's the better question. That's the problem. I mean, me and Chrome, we got into it last week because we talk about the guy, Derek Barnett. That's all we heard.
Yeah.
What does this move show you? You know what I mean? And the money that they gave him, and this isn't like, come see if you can contribute. No, this is you're making the 53-man roster if and when we have a season this year. So it just shows you what the organization thinks of him. I understand circumstances happen where they probably pushed this decision, but they had an ample amount of time to go in a different direction. They waited. You know what I mean? So I mean, I like the move. Do I wish we didn't have to do it? I do wish we didn't have to do it. I mean, it's a depth piece. I wish we had more because depth-wise, I like the move. But I think how much he's going to have to contribute because of what we have, that's where I find the problem. And it's no fault of his. It's no fault of Derek Barnett's. It's a fault on just the talent evaluation when we look at the defensive end position for this team.
Yeah.
I think it's a smart signing. I think that it should have come sooner, personally. I think that, when you have a guy that already knows that side of the ball, for what you're going to have to pay him, it's not necessarily cheap, but it's not like, you're trying to work a deal to go sign somebody big money and be locked up long term. And, I think it's just what you said, Pete. It's more of a depth piece. I think it's something that, shores it up a little bit, allows a little bit of rotation, something that addresses an immediate need versus waiting and seeing with what you got, what you have to do on the other side of the ball. So, I think it was the right call. Unfortunately, with the given situation, it's not a situation they necessarily want to be in, but,
Right.
making the most out of what they've got.
Yeah, I like the signing because of the situation we have now. Like I said, with no preseason games, I think the key here is the fact that they're not really able to see what Avery, Miller, Osman, what those guys vying for the fourth spot on the D line at edge, what they can do. If we had a preseason, I think it's a good chance that Curry doesn't get re-signed. The thing
You
is,
can see the body of work.
yeah, because you have to. It's difficult because you just don't know. You really just don't know. I don't. I personally don't put this on Sweat. I don't think it affects Sweat. I think Sweat, if anyone, is the one guy in that second unit who can be a real up and comer and can overtake Barnett. Now they need someone opposite him, and that's the thing. Now with Avery, I don't think he gets cut. I know SGM 86 says here, Avery and Miller are gone. I think Miller can be gone.
Right.
And I hated that pick, by the way. I hated the Miller pick, so I wouldn't mind him being gone. But I think with Avery, it's tough because they wanted a whole offseason to be able to groom him and train him.
Right, getting acclimated.
There's no one of his skill set type. You're talking about someone who usually plays the joker role or stands up as an outside linebacker in a 3-4. But now in our 4-3, he's a defensive end. But they're going to use him, in different ways. But you can't, as someone who's going to put his hand in the dirt on one side opposite Sweat for, on the second unit for half of the reps of a game, that's not him. So he's not someone you can put opposite Sweat. So they needed someone they can rely on just in case. So I don't mind the move. I like the move. I think that it's unfortunate because it's a result of the time that we're in and not having preseason.
Do we want to hit on the Tavis Brown retirement?
Yeah, I guess we can. I mean, like I didn't put it, but I forgot about that. I mean, we already know how thin this linebacking core is, and it's so frustrating because I did have him penciled in as one of the starters, and now he's out. And so our already really thin linebacking core just got even worse, and it's unfortunate. I have no clue who's going to win the jobs. I mean, probably Gary, and then TJ Edwards will probably be the middle linebacker in base and 4-3 base, and probably play with early downs. But besides that, I don't know who's going to step up and be the guy opposite Gary. It might be Duke Riley. I don't know.
Hopefully, somebody, please.
It's unfortunate. It sucks. And he wasn't an opt out either. He was like, I'm done with football. And
now, do you think that there's a reasoning or around that as far as what the opt out clauses come with versus freezing the contract and just saying I'm walking away for the year, and not leaving the Eagles hanging of whether he's coming back or not? That door, no one's ever really retired anymore, so the option to come back is still there. Obviously, a year, 2 years, whatever it may be. It's happened. It's going to continue to happen. I think the players choosing to take time off. Do you think this is that situation just because of the time we're in?
It could be, but I mean, I think we only signed him on a 1-year deal, so I'm not sure.
Well, that year freezes. The Eagles hold the year contract, I believe, because he hasn't played. They don't pay him.
Okay.
Well, now he would be. He's retired. That's different. He didn't opt out. So
So I mean, if he's retired, then I think what Kevin's saying, the Eagles may still have his rights if he decides he wants to play in a non-COVID situation, maybe next year. But
I don't know. I didn't read too much into it. So I have no clue what the mindset was or the reason could have been with Brown. From what Dave Spadaro, and I skimmed through his article, what he had said is just one of those things where he just didn't. He just wanted to step away from football. So I don't know. I really don't know. SJM says Davion Taylor will be forced in a bigger role. He needs a year to play special teams and get accustomed. And that's, again, I don't think this changes anything with Davion Taylor. I don't think he's ready. I really don't think he's ready. As much need it is for him, he's not. He's nowhere close to being ready to be a starter. I hope I'm wrong because Davion Taylor is an athletic freak of a linebacker, but he's got to learn the game, man. He's still got to learn the game.
He's like the Jordan Mailata of the defensive side of the ball, but obviously a little bit ahead of Jordan Mailata, but we're waiting on the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I think special teams is what we can expect out of Davion Taylor, even with the Tavis Brown signing. I don't think it changes anything. I love the prospect of Davion Taylor. I wanted him, but he's a project. And I know that a lot of these people here in the chat, SJM, Philip Hewells. Sorry if I butchered your last name. A lot of them love Davion Taylor, and I'm glad they do because he's got really high upside. He's just gonna have to wait. I know there is. Oh, SJM says also bring back Corey Nelson.
They may not have a trade for LJ Ford again, man. God
knows why he was released. Jeez Christ. SJM says, I don't want to see our fan base think Davion is a bust because the front office lacked the foresight to build depth of LB. Yeah, no, I understand. I definitely get it. And, with this fan base, they're going to say, oh, 3rd round pick, he's not playing year one. It was he's a bust. We all know. If you know about Davion Taylor, it's going to take him a while. So you're going to
So,
exercise patience with him. So
so a little,
go ahead, Kev, sorry.
speaking of the fan base, I just want to throw a little tidbit out there. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this. Do with it with what you will. As far as rounds that players are drafted and their expectations based on their pick, there has only been one. So the last time a quarterback drafted in the first 2 rounds did not play, did not start a game in the first 2 years. The last time that happened was 2005 by Sir Aaron Rodgers. So just throwing that out there.
You and your words and insight.
All right. So from a retired player to the players who are just opting out, we've got now. I don't know if you guys have looked at the list of players who have opted out for the season for COVID. It's lengthy. It has what?
A little over 60.
A lot.
I think it's like 60 something.
Yeah, a little over 60.
Yeah, it's lengthy. I mean, the most notable people on here I've seen, obviously, Hightower on the Patriots, Damian Williams on the Chiefs. Trying to think if there's anyone. I'm scrolling through. I mean, Marquis Goodwin on the Eagles. I thought he was going to be a starter, so that is also a significant loss. Is there anyone else you guys can think of that comes to mind that is a significant loss for the season?
I can think of 8 of them.
Okay, I know.
The biggest two. Well, if you look at it on paper and what these players meant to their team prior, to not Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung. I mean, Chung was absolutely shit here, but in that system, he knows his role, he knows what he needs to do, and he knows how Belichick relies on him. Dante Hightower, same thing. I mean, that's a big piece missing, especially with the loss of Kyle Van Noy,
Yeah.
So, and I think Jamie Collins left too again, right? If I'm not mistaken, Kev?
Yeah.
So, yeah, those, I really can't think of any other two that's bigger than that. You know what I mean?
So I'll throw in a third for you, Marcus Cannon on the offensive line.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. What's going on in New England, bro?
So just the 8 in New England to run them down. Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung, Marcus Cannon, Brandon Bolden, Matt Lacoste, Marquise Lee, Dan Vitale, and Najee Torrent.
But you almost act like you didn't remember to say his name. You knew how to say his damn name.
I was trying to decide if I want to call him Danny or Dan today. I'm mad at him, so it's Dan.
So how upset?
I'm surprised you to call him Daniel.
And
yeah,
Kevin, how upset? We have to revisit this when Vacation Bro does come back. But your boy Vitale is not. We're not going to see him this year.
It makes me upset a little bit.
A little.
A little.
Yeah. Well, the what I don't understand is that I personally like the fullback position. Go back Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you find your podcast, you can find out how much I like the position. But they're already like flooded at running back or in the backfield. Damian Harris, who is a stud, but can't get on the field to prove it. You've got Sony Michel, who, he can be a stud, but you don't give him the ball enough to prove it. And because you got so many other pieces back there, you had Bolden, you had God, why am I forgetting his name? Just retired. Burkhead back there. There's so many people back there, and you get one guy opt out, and then you go out and sign Lamar Miller. Like, I don't understand. Like, one guy opts out, you gotta go sign another. Like, you didn't think that we can just do without that one. I don't understand.
Belichick loves just having a bunch of guys. Like, this is why I stay away from Patriots running backs, because there's no guy. could be one guy, and the next week it could be totally else. Like, he goes with the fresh guy, whoever the player who was freshest, and he has said that. He said he goes with
That's
the freshest legs, and it's
that's not true. That's not true. Belichick is a giant kid. He saw a toy. He said, "I'm going to take this, so you can't have it," and that's why he's got all the running backs. Okay, there's no reason to have that many.
because he
He
just
just
I in all seriousness, I think he's someone who, especially with Tom Brady gone and Cam Newton, like they're going to do like a lot of different packages around Cam Newton for the running game.
I
He
don't know
knows
about that.
that he needs these running backs to be fresh, especially he's thinking not only the regular season, he's thinking playoffs.
Yeah.
And how many times do we see fresh legs in the playoffs win out? You know what I mean? So I think Belichick knows how important a running game is and how important running backs are. He just doesn't have. I don't think he has a preference in terms of getting an elite talent. He just wants good players there, good fresh players who will have fresh legs throughout the whole year. So he's collecting guys he believes he can do it. I mean, I don't know. I stay away from Patriots running backs unless it's James White, because James White's essentially a receiver. James White's the only one. But
See, I even forgot about him. There's just so many. That's like I had such high hopes a few years back with Jonas Gray.
oh yeah, and next week, one week, yeah, it's
Didn't he rush like
like
200 yards against Indianapolis on Sunday night or something like that?
yes, a ridiculous.
But now,
game.
what's that? We don't know if that was solely on Bill though. Jonas Gray, remember after that week he was feeling himself and showed up late to a meeting or something. And you don't do that shit with Bill. He's not having that.
yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. You talk money, you talk, privileges. Sorry.
You're
You're
out of
going.
here. You don't get Bill, but you get William at that point. He turns into William Belichick.
Even with Dion Lewis. Remember Dion Lewis? I think what year was it? 2015. Where beginning of he was like an off-season signing, and like he came out of nowhere, got into shape, fixed himself up, and then the first 8 weeks of the year, he was beasting it. He was like their main back, and he tore it up, and then I think he tore his ACL, I believe, and then James White came in and eventually took over that role, and then Dion Lewis never got his job back. It was.
I wonder why.
It even goes back before that. I think the real genius behind it is the money. You got 2 good games in a row. I'm going to use somebody else. Let's drop those numbers a little bit, because you got to remember that same time frame you're talking about. We also had Shane Vereen, who looked like a guy that could run a team, versus what he's doing over I believe with the Giants now. It hasn't been anything, but you start to talk dollars, well, you might lose a couple snaps.
Yeah.
So now, as far as opt-outs go, Marquis Goodwin opting out has pretty much John Hightower and Quez Watkins is thanking the heavens that he opted out.
Yeah,
because you're pretty much set for the Eagles at wide receiver at this point. And they're very, very young. I mean, you got Deshawn Jackson, who's an elder statesman. So, I mean, that could take a risk, because Alshon is Alshon. If you look in the chat, SJM is his thoughts on Alshon is kind of similar to mine, where he is booty cheeks right now, and I don't know how much it can contribute to this team, and I still don't know why High Rosen guaranteed his money and redid his contract. There was no motivation to do that. That's something that Belichick or William Belichick would not do at all. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, but for John Hightower, Quez Watkins, now you got Rieger or Rager, depending on how you enunciate it, Deshawn, and then Greg Ward. I mean, that's your 5 wide receivers.
Let's see, for 5. I mean, you have we said Hightower. I'm trying to remember now, and then Watkins. I mean, that's 7, because Alshon is going to be on the team. He's going to start on the pup, but eventually he's going to come back. But I mean, you're 6. If they're going to keep 6, yeah, they have D-Jax, Rager, Ward, J. Jaw, and then Hightower and Watkins. I don't
I
know
forgot about J. Joe. So
J. Jaw. Yeah, that's
So did
Alshon
his
Jr., that's
coaches
what I call
last
him.
year.
it makes their chances a lot higher. I mean,
Yes.
technically, Deontay Burnett and Robert Davis are still on the team, but I think they're on the outside looking in. I with Alshon off, on the pup, most likely on the pup to start the year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's 6 wide receivers in Djax, Reagor, J. Jaw, Ward, Hightower, Watkins. Now maybe they go 5. Okay, so maybe they start with 5, or even if they start with 6, when Alshon gets back, one of them has to go. Who would you think? Now we know Reagor and Djax's spots are safe. J. Jaw's spot is most likely safe because he's a second round pick. Ward, I don't see them cutting because he was reliable late in the year. So I don't, and with him being a veteran, they're going to need that. To me, it comes down to Hightower and Watkins. Where's Watkins, John Hightower? Now, I've had several debates over the past week or so with people. There are people that have Watkins rated higher than
I can
Hightower.
see that.
Like Watkins, not better. Why you have others like myself? I think Hightower is. I have Hightower better because I think he's more refined at this moment, where Watkins is more of just like an athlete, and it's not really like he still needs refinement. But between the two, who do you think wins out that last spot?
It depends on what they do, because if Watkins shows promise, then I think Watkins' ceiling is higher than Hightower's.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a spot for someone that's very refined, but they may find that Hightower may not be able to separate itself as that refined because they may already have that in Greg Ward. If you asked me, if I was running the team, as soon as Alshon got healthy and he showed that he was worth something, his ass is out of here. That's just me. And I would just roll with the young guys, because I think you need someone that's impression. Like, you need receivers that are impressionable with Carson to look at Carson as a leader, and for Carson to feel like he's a leader. You don't want, like, Alshon. That's the part about Alshon. Like, even if you may not said it indirectly, may not want it to cause any controversy, the fact that you felt that way when you say these things, and you say them even if you think they're in private, like, you shouldn't even be thinking that way, bro. Like, 11 is that's your captain. You ride with what he does. You know what I mean? You don't want him to check it down, Alshon. Get your ass open. Get some separation for once in your life. Do that.
See,
I go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. You go.
no, for me, real quick, I don't think there's a competition. I don't think they're, I think they're set. With Goodwin opting out, I think that they're going to carry, more receivers this year than they had in the past for, twofold. You've got, you're carrying less running backs. You're carrying, you already have, you kind of have the depth there to do it, to have the extra spot. Plus, like you already said, you're already talking injury between, technically your top 2 receivers, coming in. So why not just hold the depth versus, there's not going to be practice squad guys. They're not going to be, it's not going to be like you can pick from a pool this season because of the situation that's going on. So you're going to try to carry heavy in the positions that you fear the most. And last year that was wide receiver for the Eagles. So why not carry the extra guy, just make a special teamer, try him out, return here or there, whatever it might be. But, I think that, you're set where you're at. No harm, no foul, and having 6 to 7.
For me, it's tough. I don't know if they'll carry 7. I could be wrong. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's tougher because I think they're going to carry 4 running backs.
Right.
So it's tough for me to see them carry 7 unless they really just make it hard, make it impossible for the coaches to cut him. But to me, it's 6. So if Alshon, Pete, I'm with you. If it were up to me, I would trade Alshon as soon as it's possible. I'd still get him out of here. I don't care if it's a 5th round pick. I'd still trade him. but I think the chances are he's going to be on the team. The reports are that he's being a model citizen. He wants to do whatever it takes to be successful here again, have another good year. So if he's going to be a factor, one of them to me is going to be out. I just I don't know. I I think it's Hightower because I mean you have D Jackson, you have Rager as your speed guys, and that's it. Those are two. I think they would want essentially a replacement, someone who could be a third guy that Goodwin was going to be. Another speed guy, and obviously Hightower and Watkins are both that. I just think that Hightower knows how to use his speed better than Watkins does. And so I think Watkins would be the odd man out and be a practice squad stash. But hey, if it were up to me, like I said, Alshon would be out the door and just have all of them there. I don't know. It's tough to say for right now. I like
Right.
Watkins' potential as I think I agree he does have a higher ceiling, the Hightower, but every year we talk about late round guys like that, late round wide receivers who have that athletic ability, but they never figure it out. They never figure it out.
So
I know SJM here is talking about. Go ahead.
now I was going to say you're speaking about trades, and I know the puppet master back there behind the scenes, who has been shy today. I mean, at least when Brodo produces the show, he may pop in every once in a while. This guy, the guy we have tonight, is very, very quiet. But if he can put up Philip with the F, his most recent comment, last name is Hules or Hughes, and if he can find it, or if Chucks, if you find it, I will know the look on your face once you find it. So I mean, I don't know. I can't see that happening. I'm not. I don't want you to pull this up because of the tail end of the comment. But could you see a J Jaw transition at tight end?
No.
Would he have to put on another 15 to 20 pounds? I mean,
He would have
what
to
would
put
they
on another
do?
50 pounds and also learn a whole new position from. When you're a tight end, you have to learn. There's another element to your game you have to learn. You're lined up differently too. You have to learn blocking schemes in a different way, from different perspective than a wide
Right.
receiver. Wide receiver, you're blocking out in the slot or out wide at the X and Z. As a tight end, you're in blocking within the formation. It's totally different. J. Jaw is not a tight end. And I know that's SJM, like he's saying like J. Jaw equals Reggie Brown, and the Eagles won't be able to develop second round wide receivers, blah blah blah. Like I understand J. Jaw has had his struggles in his rookie year. We all know that. We all saw, and it's frustrating. But I think we also need to remember wide receivers don't always come out real quick in year one and produce. A lot of wide receivers take time. I mean, look at Chris Godwin. What did Chris Godwin do his rookie year? He didn't do much. He started to do things his third year in the league. That's when he broke out. So I'm not trying to compare them. All I'm saying is that let's not abandon J Jaw real quick. I mean, so quickly. J Jaw was also hurt for almost the whole year, so it's not you got to add that context to it. I was someone that was high on J Jaw. I was very disappointed in his rookie year, but let's not be too quick to think the guy's already a bust. I still think he's going to surprise people. I think he does have legit talent, and there were several plays, especially later in the year, where he showed what he's capable of. He had that one catch along the sideline, that fade, where it was gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, and he came over with that over the shoulder catch. Like there's really not any wide receiver that can make a catch like that on the roster. There's no one. Like D-Jax ain't making that kind of catch. Alshon maybe, but not anymore. Ward, that's not his specialty. Like Rager, no, that's not his specialty. Like J-Jaw has a certain skill set that if we want to really get rid of Alshon and we want Alshon to be an afterthought, who do you want to replace him? And it's J-Jaw. J-Jaw has a similar skill set. So he's the big wide receiver. Let's calm down before we say like before we write him off.
I mean, that's the biggest thing is what you said there is, who is he supposed to be replacing or modeling after to,
Right.
fill the shoes up and, it being Alshon. Well, you look at what did the coaching staff come out and say last year? Oh, we moved him into 7 different positions on the offense. Newsflash, that's all 3 receiving spots, the backfield, and that tight end. So that's every single spot you could be in. On the offensive receiving position outside of quarterback in line. Okay, so to think that it would be crazy to put him at tight end. I mean, they tried it just because they have to have trust in him in his talent wise. Obviously, you're not going to put a guy there if you don't think he can try to do something. Now, to think that he's going to be a backup there and be an actual tight end and convert, I think that's a little absurd. I agree with you, Chucks. I think it's more the blocking side of things. Can he catch underneath and run those routes? Sure, but as far as the blocking ability, it's just not there. That takes years to do, and right now there's not many in the league that do both well. They're just bigger, tight end wise, as far as the blocking and the receiving goes. Do I think he makes a change and a turn for the better this year? I think he does. I'm in the same boat with Chucks. I think that once they find and solidify a spot for him, and groom the playbook around this offense and not the broken offense that you had last year and the rotating parts and changing guys in and out constantly, and you have something steady to move forward and build off of every week. I think you'll see the improvement, and I think he quickly becomes behind Rieger, the number 2 guy on the team offensively.
SJM, I know he says, what did Godwin show at Penn State that J-Jaw did not at Stanford? His explosiveness. J-Jaw is a possession red zone receiver. And I'm not, again, I'm trying to reiterate, I'm not saying that J-Jaw is the same as Godwin. They're different types of wide receivers.
Right.
I think we know what J-Jaw is. We know he's like an Alshon Jeffrey. He's a big wide receiver that makes his his calling is the jump ball, the 50-50 ball. I think we need to realize that I know on Twitter, I got into it a few days ago with some people. Not like it was just a debate, but someone had posted highlights of J. John, said, oh, like there are signs of him doing well, that he can do. There are good things that he does. And then someone responded saying, oh, but where's the separation? Where's the separation? Well, I responded saying, like, you got to realize that when it comes to wide receivers, especially guys like J. Jaw or Alshon, it's not about separation as much as it is throwing windows and leverage. Like, there's more to route running than just quickness and separation. Just because you get separation doesn't mean you're an elite wide receiver, or if you don't get separation, that means you're not an elite wide receiver. You're like, DeAndre Hopkins we can argue, is an elite wide receiver, but is he an elite route runner that gets elite separation? No, he's not. But what does he hang his hat on? He's a good enough route runner, but he's a tremendous at the catch point, tremendous hands and ball skills. With players that don't have that quickness, that explosiveness, that dynamic athletic ability, they hang their hat on knowing how to use leverages, knowing how to use their size. Pete, I know you listen to the same podcast as I do. On Bleeding Green Nation, what's his name? Ben Solak. What does he always talk about when it comes to wide receivers? He talks about throwing windows. And throwing windows doesn't mean separation. It just means you give your quarterback a lane to throw to, a lane to throw to. It doesn't have to be the biggest spot or the best separation. It's about, is there an area that the quarterback can throw to that he knows his receiver is going to get to and not the defender. And so that for J-Jaw, that's what it's about. It's not about separation. It's not about quickness. It's about his ability, learning how to use leverage. What happened with Ertz? When Ertz was able to really refine his route running to a point where he understood leverages at an elite level, that's what helped him go to the next step. That's what brought the game to the next level. And it wasn't because of quickness and separation. It's because he understood leverages and throwing windows. It's because he knew that, okay, my defender's leaning this way. I can fake this way, and then I have a throwing window the opposite way that Carson's going to throw to. So it's, I wouldn't, when it comes to J-Jaw, don't look at separation. Look at how he's using leverage, similar to how Ertz does. That's his game. Philip says, yeah, J-Jaw had too much to learn. Didn't matter if he was from a pro-style offense. SJM says, I hope J-Jaw pans out. By no means am I wishing he fails, and you're right, Chuck, it's only 1 year. Then Yusuf says, what up, gentlemen? Sorry, a little late. What's going on, Yusuf?
Perfect segue to Yusuf.
Yeah.
From Washington.
To that, yeah. I know, Philip, I just want to touch this. That first pass from Carson to J-Jaw against Dallas in Week 16 was pretty. He started to come on with targeted later. Build on that now. And I completely agree. But Yusuf, yeah. Our last topic before we head out. Let's talk about it. Derrius Guice. Domestic charges. Turned himself in, arrested.
Strangulation, bro. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Immediately released by the Washington football team. So he's no longer there. Give your quick reactions, thoughts to the situation, because I know I have a lot to say, but go ahead. Either one of you.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, mine's quick and easy. Had a lot of hope for him coming off of, if he could stay healthy, that is, should be, a good running back within the league, and try to build that team up. Yeah, and I mean team by that is their name now, as ridiculous as that sounds. But health issues galore, domestic issues, whatever it may be. I mean, I don't think it hurts the team much because he's still got a couple guys there. You still have Adrian Peterson, who, yes, older, yes, not at what he once was, but can still be a back. I don't think it hurts them as a team much. Obviously, because you didn't really have much last year. My biggest takeaway is just the league putting something in place, man. To be a mentor to men, to these guys, to these kids, coming out, no older than I am. I turned 25 in October. We're talking about some guys on the list that we just named that are best players in the league are 22, 23 years old. So, I know what I go through, as far as the life side of things goes, and you give them fame and fortune and endorsements and all that kind of stuff. Somebody's got to write these guys. I'm not saying that I'm not saying what he did was because of his situation, because of the money. It's got to be mentally there too. But somebody's got to step in as a mentor within the league for them.
Yeah, that's great point. I remember back in that draft, Guice was my RB2. Obviously, Saquon was 1, but I was saying, like, Guice isn't that far behind Saquon in terms of a talent standpoint, and I still stand by that. Like, when he was on the field, when the very few times he was, you saw how good he was. He had legit talent. Now, during that draft, it had started to come out that the Eagles were passing on him because they had concerns about character. Some reports refuted it, blah, blah, blah. Guice refuted it. I think it's kind of the truth has now come out, and we're starting to see the truth behind that. They did have concerns about his character. If he didn't
rightfully so.
Yeah, rightfully so. And who knows if he didn't have those character concerns, maybe the Eagles do take him. And they would have been they would have had the running back, and he would have been the future. But it's so frustrating because, like, I don't know what it is, but I've been really high on running backs that have had a bad history when it comes to these domestic violence charges. I don't know what it is. Like Ray Rice with Rutgers, Ray Rice was one of my favorite players. I met the guy, super nice guy. I'm a Rutgers fan, unfortunately. So I love the guy coming out of the draft. I met him, and he was phenomenal for the Ravens.
Right.
It's to see what happened with him was very upsetting because I knew that like that's not him. Like that was not
Right.
he made an awful mistake, but now he's got to pay for it. But that's not true to his character, and it's been frustrating because to see guys like him not get a second chance, but also because like the year that he got in trouble, he didn't have a good season, so that probably probably was a factor, but he didn't get a second chance. But then you have guys like Greg Hardy, who
Yeah.
gets a second chance from the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, which is another reason why I despise Jerry Jones because he has the audacity to call a guy like Greg Hardy a leader and sign him to when he didn't deserve a second chance. That's awful. That's something that's one of the things I really I can't ever overlook. And that's why I hate the Cowboys a lot because of Jerry Jones and his mindset. But with Ray Rice, it was frustrating. And then you guys know about my love for Kareem Hunt, how he was my guy, with the Chiefs, and then that thing with him happened. And I'm not saying Guice was on that level. I didn't love the player as much as I loved Ray Rice or Kareem Hunt, but
Yeah.
I felt like Guice had legit talent, and I was high on him, and I was all for the Eagles drafting him if it weren't for those character issues. But now you see why he dropped to the second round to the Redskins, and it's really unfortunate and it's frustrating when we talked about earlier in the show, Pete. All this talent at running back is starting to come up. The running back position is starting to get infused with elite talent, like guys with serious talent that could revolutionize or evolve the position again in their favor. And you have a guy like Guice who just puts it to waste. It's unfortunate and it's frustrating that these athletes don't make wiser choices. Guice could have had so much ahead of him.
Yeah.
He does this. And I know like the injury thing is also a factor. I know it was reported by I think Schefter that he had injured his knee again the day before the arrest. So that was another red flag. But it's unfortunate and it does upset me that talented guys, talented players like this end up doing this. And to spin it the other way, to the victims, whoever of any domestic violence charge, anything like that, like my thoughts go out to like it's no one deserves to be abused like that. Strangled? Are you kidding me? Like no one deserves that. So
I mean, like, I'll get my thoughts on it real quick. He strangled her until she was unconscious. I mean, we don't know how long or how close he was to actually committing the murder. You know what I mean? And his life in general needs to get back on order because there's deep-rooted issues there. The one thing I can say, while we can fault the league for what they do on the field, I know they probably need some mentorship as well, some type of thing in place. And it's not the league's job to raise these guys to men. That shit should be done way before they even get to the league. But we create an environment in college football, and I know SJM was just want to know some names that we see this way too often. That's my problem. Like we see this way too often. I mean, you talked about Greg Hardy. You talk about Joe Mixon. Well, Mixon's situation was in college. You talk about Kareem Hunt. That happened in the league. Hell, you talk about Tyreek Hill. Like, he's had numerous issues. Even we went from documented domestic abuse to questionable child abuse. You feel what I'm saying? So we saw it with AP. I mean, we don't really bring that up anymore because he's kind of changed. You would hope that he would. But it's just, and we talked about this before. I don't know if I was on with you guys. It's just when these guys are conditioned to play a physical sport like this, sometimes, somewhere, somehow, they don't know how to turn it off. And the way they combat taking on a block or getting the yard 31, they may go home and treat everyday life the same way they do with the same outlook they do on the field. And that's not to make it right, wrong, and different because it is absolutely wrong. But I just think we need to start look a little bit deeper to say, hey, like he hurt his knee. We don't know what the situation is. There's no excuse for it. Come home, his girl like, da-da-da, you always getting hurt. Well, I'm going to get this, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, You know what I mean? Like, you think it's a wrestling match. You feel what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
they just don't know. But in order to do that, listen, dog, you can't play football. This game of football, what you could have gave, like you talked about, with the great running backs that we may have right now in this golden era of running backs that we think it may be, Derrius Guice's name will never be mentioned. Unless, I mean, I can't see anybody. I mean, the difference between Ray Rice and this, Ray Rice, for one, was a video, and he was a little older.
Yeah.
Guice is still young. He still has time to save his image somewhat. I mean, I don't know how you come back from this, but it may get a chance back on the football field. May get a chance, but he needs the help. These guys need the help, and somehow, some way, I wish that these signs were noticed earlier. And I this is what I truly believe. I believe women who are in this situation, who were scared to come forward before because they thought nobody would listen, or they didn't feel like they had an avenue to speak, or didn't have an ear. I think now we're starting to see more women. They're not taking it anymore. The same way you see the Black Lives Movement, where Black people of color, that's not taking it, just the racism. Women are just not. They're not just gonna sit there and let you beat them like a pinata anymore because they're scared. There's too many ears. There's too many people looking for it. There's too much talk on social media to where you can't allow this anymore. But I mean, thank God that he didn't kill him. I mean, to strangle somebody until they're unconscious, you don't know what it's like to you don't know how close she was to death. You feel what I'm saying? And I'm reading this this isn't like the only incident. And that's the scariest thing. It's like by the time we hear about it and the time they get caught, or the time that they get prosecuted, or the time they get charged, trust me, people, there's been more instances where this has happened and just hasn't said anything. And the people around it just hasn't said anything. You know what I mean? So it's sickening. It's a call. It's a circle of what's the word I'm looking for? It's a circle of enabling. And I kind of think that's what kind of Kev was speaking to a little bit too, where this kind of culture and this bubble and what this pedestal that we put these players on, it kind of enables them to feel like they can do these things and they don't think about the consequences and what can happen. I mean, and Kareem Hunt, like we spoke about Kareem Hunt, still in trouble. Obviously, it's not domestic violence related, but he just had the traffic stop. One man is gone. Like, you smoking, drinking, gun in the car. Like, what's going on? Like, what makes you feel like you need to do this? So it's just a lot. It's a lot.
There's a lot.
It's a shame though. Shame, waste of a talent.
Yeah, and I think Yusuf was naming guys he's excited about. Bryce Love, Gibson. I'm interested, from a football perspective, because I think that we've said pretty much what we need to say in terms of the domestic violence charge, and it's horrible. You got this comment here. Are we trying to defend Guice? In no way are we trying to defend Guice
At all.
At all. It's horrible. It should never happen, and he deserves to be punished every bit necessary. From a football perspective, Washington likely they're going to use a committee now, obviously, with Adrian Peterson being the early down guy, and then it's going to be between Love and Gibson. I personally like with Bryce Love. I don't know if he's going to be the same guy post injury. That's what worries me.
How close is he back? How far removed is he from? Is it over a year?
Over a year now. Over a year. So, but I had to see it. Like this, you're talking about a guy who's undersized, but like had blazing speed and explosiveness, but also kind of had issue. He wasn't known to be a pass catching type of guy in college. You would think like undersized, though he's a pass catcher, but no, he wasn't really used that way. And he's not really elusive in the sense that he'll make you miss. He just has great speed. So that's one thing. If he has that speed, that'll help. But I do like Gibson a lot, and this goes for anyone playing fantasy or whatnot, or if just Washington fans or whatever. I think Gibson can be a really good gadget, not just gadget player, but like a two-way player,
a versatile player,
like weapon in terms of like how what's his name, Cordero Patterson and Percy Harvin were kind of used
Yep.
because he wasn't used as a running back a lot, but he does have skill to get some carries behind the backfield. He does have ability as a receiver in the slot, and man, he's got good build and very, very good runner, strong contact balance, explosive. He's intriguing. He's very intriguing. I think if I were to put my money on two backs to lead the way for Washington, it would be AP and Gibson. I really like Gibson. I personally wouldn't take him because in fantasy I don't take players from division rivals. Just my personal preference. It's not. Yeah, I don't go that way.
That's good. That's going to cost you this year, buddy.
Oh yeah, I know. It's cost me, but
it's
just a personal preference and philosophy thing that I do. And I've said it on the show here with Chrome. I've said it. I've made it very clear. Anyone who plays fantasy football, do not do what I do. I'm one of those diehard fans that just I can't stand having a division rival on my team, and I put my fanhood over fantasy football. So don't do what I do. It's if you're really playing fantasy football to win it, and you have money on the line. Obviously, don't do what I do. I do what I do because that's just me, and I have issues. I have serious issues. So Gibson, you're not going to see on any of my teams, but if Gibson was on another team, he's someone I would look to like later rounds, or if you're in an auction league as a cheap sleeper. But I like Gibson a lot. I really do.
For fans' insight, we are all, the three of us, in a fantasy league this year where Chucks is the commissioner, and the rule book is that of legal document-esque, to where you have language like for first find there to lie. Like you would think you're reading like a legit. Like I felt like I almost had to sign this shit at the end of it when I got done reading it, and so I'm glad to hear that your fanhood becomes fantasy. I will say mine does not. My there's no the allegiance is my team at that given time. So, but I digress. Kev,
I don't know why you don't do what I just do. Every time I have a question, I just text the commissioner himself. Hey, can you figure this out for me? Versus reading that book.
At some point, I'm not going to answer. I'm going to say, go to the rule book. The only reason why I don't say that right now is because you're new. I'm trying to catch you a break. But anytime in that chat, in that fantasy chat, whenever someone's like, oh, what's this? And it's clearly in the rule book, I just go, look at the rule book. And it's frustrating because I know not everyone reads it. But
they have to.
That years in the making.
I mean, they've got to finish 2 years of law school before they can read it. That's the problem, Chucks. But no, all in all,
I've worked for so many years. Yeah, so many years.
Real quick before we get out of here, thoughts on no college football?
That's big.
I know the SEC. I think they're still trying, but I mean, Big Ten came out and said no spring, and then I think Pac-12 said the same thing. I think maybe Big 12 said the same thing.
Wait, Big Ten they're just going to postpone to spring, or they're looking?
They're going to postpone it to spring. I think nobody's having fall sports.
You know what else?
What I think. So they're going to try to do spring football, which may affect the draft and the CBA. You can't in the CBA. June 2nd is the furthest date that you can have the draft. So if you have spring football, I wonder what that does for the offseason. I mean, there's some guys like Trevor Lawrence that play like Micah Parsons, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields probably already have Jamar Chase doesn't need to take another snap. There's guys that you don't need to do anything else to prove what you need to improve your draft stock. You're going to be bona fide top 10 already as it is. But now these other players, that's going to be a little bit different. So I'm interested to see how that's going to happen, what we're going to do for fall sports as far as country. Because let's be real, there's a lot of us out there who may follow college sports more closely than the NFL. I mean, obviously this is an NFL-based football show, but the college football is our feeder system. I mean, if we don't have college football, who are we getting to replace these older players? You know what I mean? So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I'm glad to see it. It still sucks to see it, but I'm happy to see that these college players not making any money, Don't tell me about you're giving me an education. Keep that education because by the time if my shit pans out, I'm not going to need that education by the time I get to the league. I can come back later and get that education. You know what I mean? So good on
Well,
them. Good on them. Go ahead,
well,
Kev.
see, that's the biggest thing, and I'll bring up, a point that supports that is that, having insider scoop. I've heard that a lot of schools are going back to classroom settings. That most of these campuses are big enough to, support social distancing. That they can allow that, but it's up to the students. It's the student's choice whether you want to go to campus or you want to do teleclassrooms and do it from home. That's your choice. Okay. So with that being said, they already have to have precautions put in place for those students that will be on campus, as far as COVID testing and temperature readings and all that kind of stuff, to where it may be a safe place to hold a game, football wise and sports wise, especially if it's done throughout each league. The Big Ten, Pac-12, if all of the sanctions are put in place to where it's safe to travel between the two, school to school, whatever it may be. So I'm interested to see why now they're rolling that out when the schools are open. But nonetheless, the impact that it's going to have, I think you're going to see a huge, huge drop off. You're going to see the guys that you mentioned, your first, second, maybe third round guys that know that, okay, at some point in there, I am going to be drafted. But then you've got your later round guys that nothing's really for certain. Your guys like, if you look at like a Brady or a Stidham who was taken the fourth round, those guys didn't start until their second, their last 2 years in college. A lot of guys don't come into football until late. So do those guys just not play anymore and they just pursue the degree that they're going after? And because those guys are invested. I know you said that, hey, I don't care about the degree if I know that that's going to be my path. If you're those
Well, if you're good
upper,
enough, if you're good
yeah,
enough.
if you're good enough, right? Exactly. But that's my point, is those guys that don't know if they are and do
Right.
take their degree serious, and do pursue that, do you just say, hey, let me stick with that and not go back to football because I know I can make a career someplace else? And now with the NFL overturning their initial ruling on open tryouts being discussed, weighs heavily on that.
Right.
It's coming out that they're going to open teams to just have open tryouts to anybody that you want to, come off the street, any age, your Invincible, Papali story-esque type situation again, which was the last time that there was open tryouts. So, once that's put back in place, you're letting a lot of guys in versus, hey, do I really got to go play?
Right.
So we'll
It's
see.
going to be very interesting as someone who, who studies the draft every year. That this process is going to be so different,
Yep.
and it's going to be very tough. What was it? SJM says no college football makes the 2021 NFL draft difficult for front offices, and it's absolutely true. Like, how many times during the draft time do I say, do I reiterate? Look, tape over testing, tape over combine stuff. Like, don't pay attention to combine stuff. It's always tape.
Tape.
There's
There's no tape.
There's no tape. What are you gonna do? Like, how is it gonna work? And it sucks. Kev, you made a great point. Like, there are players who they come out of nowhere their last year of college, and then that's how they, that's their mark. That's how they get into the draft and get drafted early. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he was a backup until this past season when they had no one else. He stepped in, and now he became the first running back taken. Miles Sanders sat behind Saquon Barkley for 2 years, and then finally got a chance to start his junior year before taking in the second round. And then the list goes on and on of players like that. It's going to be very, very. It's gonna suck, and it's really gonna suck to, this draft is going to be very difficult. The process is going to be very difficult because there's nothing. There's going to be no tape for some of these prospects, and you're either going to have to dig deep or just go off of the combine or the Senior Bowl, like the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl. Now are going to be even
Bigger.
more important, like because that's the only game you're really going to see from people. So it sucks, and I'm not looking forward to the draft process because it's going to be so convoluted and it's going to be difficult. It's really going to be difficult. But I mean, I'm not saying that what they're doing is wrong though. What they're doing, if they're postponing or canceling the season, it's the right thing to do. It is.
Wow.
You just gotta adjust and make it work and figure it out from here on out. And hopefully for all these players, it'll turn out fine.
What I'm interested to see, and one of my favorite things to actually watch is the skills challenge on the Pro Bowl weekend, and is to look at not necessarily game speed, but game speed-esque type different things, how far can you throw the ball at a small moving target, stuff like that doesn't equate directly to the game, but it's fun to watch. How much of that type of stuff, how much of 7-on-7 type games are going to be implemented around draft time to watch these guys that aren't playing now, on the field? Because like Chuck said, it's not all about, your break speed in the 40. It's not all about how much you can bench, because look at a guy like McCaffrey or, those types of guys that, there's different aspects of their game, late that you have to see at full speed to know what you're getting, and especially the mental side of things. So interested to see what they put in place to actually test that versus just going off of what you've seen, now 2 years ago by the time it comes around.
SJM brings up a really good name, Micah Parsons, who opted out this season. He's a stud. I know that. I've watched a little bit of him because I got curious. He is a stud. Unfortunately, I do not think the Eagles will be drafting early enough to take Micah Parsons. That'll be a pipe dream. But yeah, he's one of those guys that's a stud. It's very interesting. I don't know if you read this comment, but Dwight Galt, the strength coach at Penn State, is SJM's uncle, and you said athletic ability of Micah Parsons rivals Saquon. He's highly intelligent and finishes BA in 3 years. That's very impressive. So
very impressive.
Probably one of the top prospects to look out for. And then he brings up another point. We may get the NFL on Saturday and Sunday. I know. I think it was Shefty that was saying that the NFL proposed it and was ready to broadcast games on Saturday. That's going to be very interesting to have NFL on both sides. And then
if you don't have college football, there's an opportunity for it. There's a window there. So
there is. How's that going to work out? That's really weird because with practice schedules and everything, like you're going to make them play a day early. I don't know, but it's going to be very interesting going forward. Anything else, guys, for the docket before we say our goodbyes?
Nah, man, it's fair. It's so long until I see you again. No goodbyes are forever. I don't like goodbye. I don't like goodbye.
No goodbyes.
No, I mean, hey, fam out there, I know Chucks may seem like he has it all together for the most part, but I know it's getting close, boy. It's getting close to little Miles Westbrook Moranin. I'm telling you.
Here's a little funny story before we head out. 2 nights ago, Mary thought her water might have broke. She was lying down in bed and, she started leaking a little bit. I don't know if it's TMI, but it's pregnancy. But she wasn't sure. Like right. She wasn't sure, so we just monitored it. Yesterday, we were out running errands and going to the park to take a walk. And early in the afternoon, she started having contractions and heavy ones and constant. And she has an app tracker for that. And she would track it. And then at some point, we were eating, and the tracker said, okay, it's time to go to the hospital. So yesterday, we were planning, okay, we're going to the hospital tonight. He might be coming. But I think around 5 o'clock, the contractions just stopped. And then she maybe had 1 or 2 for the rest of the night. But that was it. They just stopped coming. So we're I guess we're not going to the hospital. So she's been holding on. Like we both want this baby out now. Like he's fully he's healthy. She's now officially at 9 months, so we're kind of hoping that the baby comes out really, really, really soon. But he'll get here when we get here, and when he does get here, we'll see how long I'll be out for. I'm probably going to be out for quite some time. But if that's next week or a week after, we'll see what it comes to. But yeah, I appreciate the shout out, and Mary is actually in the room with me. She's listening, so she waves hi and gives thanks to everyone, and thank you for your wishes for the baby. We're very excited, and we're very excited to announce the official full name of the baby. I know we haven't made it public to anyone else besides like close family, but I'm very excited to announce the name. But thank you.
Roll.
But anyway, whether it be next week, like I said, I'll be out or not. Hopefully, I'll be on with you guys. Hopefully, Chrome will be back and he'll be feeling better next week. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in, all the listeners. Thank you for listening to us blabble on again about our love for football and our rankings. We'll see what the show comes next week. But you remember, always catch us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Twitch. We thank our sponsors, Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy, LLC, and Ambuck Services Gutter Cleaning. We thank also our other sponsors for our poll question, QB54, the best game in the business. Visit them at QB54shop.com and use promo code No Notes to get 20% off. And also to Philly Drinkers, the website that makes our A2D merch. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm not wearing an A2D merch. Sorry. I thought I was wearing an A2D shirt. There you go. Birds of a Feather. Get all your show merchandise, your A2D merchandise. For the QB Factory shirt, the promo code A2D is still valid to get 25% off. So make sure you get that. Make sure you catch the rest of the shows, AM and the PM and the Fix combined tomorrow. Lazy Booking maybe and Hockey Happy Hour on Thursday. On the Road to Victory Friday. Kicking it stateside, weekly roundup in this very ring. And just agree to disagree on the weekends. And then Sports Hounds on Monday. Guys, Pete, Kev, thanks for it was another good show. All the listeners on YouTube, Facebook, thank you guys for everything.
Twitch as well.
And we will see you next week.
Peace.